This is the most compromised World Cup final in the history of the sport, not because of anything that happened today, because of everything that happened across 40 days of tournament football that has been building toward this exact moment, and because in the final hours before the biggest match in human history, three separate crises arrived simultaneously that FIFA has no clean answer for. The air quality inside MetLife Stadium in New Jersey was flagged as a serious concern on Thursday. A dancer rehearsing the halftime show texted her father that it was bad out there, that the air was heavy and hard to work in. The air quality index in the area was elevated enough that a professional women's football match played at a nearby venue on Wednesday required 2 additional hydration breaks per half under league protocol. FIFA, the same organization that mandated 3-minute hydration breaks at every match of this tournament regardless of conditions, may now be forced to break its own protocol for the final, to add additional breaks, to alter the structure of the sport's most watched single match because the stadium where it is being played cannot guarantee the conditions the players need. The banner investigation is still open. Lisandro Martinez and Giovanni Lo Celso held up a banner about the Falkland Islands on the pitch after the semifinal against England. FIFA opened a formal investigation. No outcome has been announced. Argentina are playing the final in 3 hours with that investigation unresolved. The players responsible for it are in the squad. Their eligibility for the match has not been formally challenged, and the institution that threatened yellow cards to players wearing images of inclusion in Qatar, that deployed its full disciplinary weight to prevent an armband from appearing on a football pitch, has not yet said what it will do about 8 words in Spanish displayed on the pitch of a World Cup semifinal. And the phone call that the president of the host nation confirmed publicly on the record in the Oval Office is the most important single sentence spoken about this tournament by anyone outside football. I called FIFA. I asked them to review the suspension. He said he didn't say you have to do this. He said he didn't think the offense was even a foul. He thanked FIFA publicly for doing what was right and reversing what he called a great injustice. The head of the primary host nation of the 2026 World Cup publicly confirmed that he personally telephoned the president of FIFA to request the reversal of a disciplinary ruling, and FIFA reversed it. The first reversal of an automatic red card suspension in 64 years of World Cup football, done after a phone call. That is not a political story. That is a football governance story of the first order, and it is the story that sits underneath every other crisis arriving at MetLife Stadium on the day of the final. So what really happened, and how did the sport's greatest competition arrive at its concluding match carrying this much weight? Let's go through both tracks, the football and the institutional collapse, the beauty and the crisis, because both are real, and understanding either one without the other produces an incomplete account of the most extraordinary tournament in World Cup history. Start with the air quality, because the air quality crisis is the most immediate and the most operationally concrete of the 3 crises landing today. New Jersey's air quality index on Thursday and Friday has been elevated, driven by a combination of regional weather patterns and wildfire smoke from elsewhere in the Northeast, the same conditions that have intermittently affected the region across this summer. Inside MetLife Stadium, a venue with a partial roof structure that does not provide full shelter from atmospheric conditions, the air quality had deteriorated enough to be physically noticeable during rehearsals for Sunday's halftime show. The halftime show itself, Shakira, Madonna, and BTS performing in the interval of the World Cup final, is the most watched 15 minutes of entertainment in the world. Billions of people will see it. The organizational infrastructure behind it has been months in the making, and the dancer who rehearsed at the stadium on Thursday was texting her father that she could feel the air, that it was heavy. That is not a casual observation. That is a performer whose professional health depends on air quality, saying that the conditions inside the venue were physically noticeable. The implications for the match are significant. FIFA has mandated 3-minute hydration breaks at every match of this tournament. The rationale offered, player welfare in extreme heat, has generated its own controversy throughout, with critics pointing to the commercial inventory those breaks create and the booing that has accompanied every single break in every single stadium across 40 days of football. But that is a separate argument. The point today is that if the air quality inside MetLife Stadium on Sunday requires additional welfare breaks beyond the mandatory 3-minute windows, FIFA faces a specific choice: apply its own welfare logic consistently and add breaks when conditions demand it, or hold rigidly to the 3-minute format and accept that the final's conditions were not managed with the same welfare standard applied everywhere else. Every decision this institution makes on the day of the final will be scrutinized through the lens of everything that preceded it. That is the consequence of a tournament that has generated formal complaints from 5 national federations and produced the most extensive officiating controversy in the competition's modern history. Here's the interesting part. Because the air quality situation lands alongside the announcement of the halftime show performers in a way that illuminates something about the commercial architecture of this tournament. Shakira, Madonna, BTS, 3 of the most globally recognizable entertainment acts on Earth. Their combined audience across social media platforms numbers in the billions. The halftime show at this final will be watched by more people than any television event since records began. The commercial investment in those 15 minutes is astronomical, and the venue where those 15 minutes will be performed, the stadium that the governing body chose for the most commercially significant moments in its history, has air quality concerns that a dancer described as heavy and physically noticeable during Thursday's rehearsal. The banner investigation produces its own specific crisis for today. The rules are clear. FIFA's Stadium Code of Conduct bans political displays. The Malvinas banner is a political display about a territorial dispute. The formal investigation was opened, and then nothing. No announcement, no timeline, no indication of whether the players involved face any sanction for the final, or whether the investigation will simply remain open until after the match has been played and the trophy has been lifted. Here is the counter-argument, because honest analysis requires it. Argentina's players are human beings who had just beaten England, the country most associated with the Falklands War in Argentine cultural memory, in a World Cup semi-final. The emotional temperature of that moment is genuinely extreme. Martinez and Lo Celso may genuinely have acted on impulse rather than premeditation. Argentina's own leadership described it as understandable and said it would likely result in a fine rather than anything more severe. A fine, after the final, is a sanction that has no effect on the match and very limited effect on the institution. If FIFA decides that is the appropriate response, there is a legitimate argument that proportionality supports it. But FIFA threatened yellow cards to players wearing armbands in Qatar. The One Love campaign, a message of inclusion, generated institutional intervention that prevented its display on a football pitch. The comparison between an armband that FIFA threatened to punish before it was worn and the banner that FIFA is investigating after it was displayed is a comparison that the institution cannot avoid. The consistency of application is the standard by which its credibility is measured, and on the day of the final, that standard remains unresolved. Now here is the phone call. Stated plainly and without embellishment because the facts are more powerful than any framing. Fuller and Balogun received a red card in the United States' match against Bosnia-Herzegovina. The automatic suspension rule, which had operated without exception since 1962, 64 years of World Cup football, required him to miss the following match. The host nation's leader publicly confirmed that he personally called the president of FIFA to request a review of that suspension. FIFA reversed it. Balogun played against Belgium. The United States lost 4-1, and the reversal became the most institutionally significant single disciplinary decision in the competition's history. The host nation's leader said he didn't say you have to do this. He said he asked FIFA to look at it. He said he didn't even think it was a foul. UEFA described the reversal as unprecedented, incomprehensible, and unjustifiable. Belgium's federation documented in writing that they received no information about the process, were given hours to appeal a decision they hadn't been shown, and were denied any explanation. And the president of the host nation confirmed he had called the FIFA president about it, publicly in the Oval Office. FIFA's head of referees responded to the accumulated controversy of the tournament with a statement that will define this institution's communication strategy for years. Nobody can question the integrity of the FIFA World Cup match officials. Nobody can claim that FIFA refereeing can be influenced by anyone, not even by the FIFA president. And then the host nation's leader confirmed publicly that he had called the FIFA president about the reversal of a disciplinary decision. Both of those things exist in the same 40-day tournament. Both are on the record. The sentence that FIFA's head of referees chose to include in his own statement, not even by the FIFA president, was a denial of something that had not yet been publicly confirmed. It is now publicly confirmed. Here is the shareable sentence, the one that matters beyond Sunday, beyond this final, beyond the entire 2026 tournament. An institution that said it could not be influenced by anyone, not even by its own president, reversed a 64-year rule after a phone call, and on the day of its most commercially significant match, a dancer rehearsing the halftime show texted her father that she could feel the air was heavy. That sentence contains everything. The governance story, the commercial story, the welfare story, and the human story. All of it arriving simultaneously at MetLife Stadium on the 19th of July, 2026. Think about what Slavko Vincic is carrying onto the pitch when the final begins. Not just the responsibility of refereeing the biggest match in sports, the accumulated weight of a tournament in which 5 national federations filed formal complaints about officiating, in which the former president of the sport's governing body described the reversal of a 64-year rule as unprecedented and incomprehensible, in which a manager spent his final World Cup press conference asking whether a referee was good enough to be there, and in which the president of the host nation confirmed he had personally called the FIFA president to request a disciplinary reversal. Vincic is experienced, he's respected, he is neutral by every applicable standard. He is Slovenian, no geopolitical sensitivity with either Spain or Argentina. He has handled 4 previous matches at this tournament without generating controversy. He is, by the criteria of the sport, a strong appointment. And he will take the field in the most scrutinized football match in history, refereed by an institution whose credibility has been challenged from more directions simultaneously than at any tournament in the competition's 100 years. Joan Laporta said it on Fifth Avenue 3 days ago. If the referee is a referee who imposes himself, Spain will have more chances, but the referee must impose himself. That sentence, delivered by the president of the club that supplies more players to Spain's national team than any other institution on earth, is the pre-final summary of 6 weeks of institutional turbulence. Not a prediction about Spain's tactical quality, a statement about whether the framework surrounding the football can be trusted. The football, when it happens, will be extraordinary. Spain versus Argentina is the match the tournament deserved. Lamine Yamal against a defensive structure that has been Argentina's backbone all tournament. Pedri and Fabian Ruiz against the midfield engine that carried Argentina through 4 consecutive comeback victories. Messi, 39 years old, 11 consecutive World Cup matches with a goal or assist, attempting to become the first back-to-back champion since Brazil in 1958 and 1962, against a Spain side that has conceded only 1 goal across 7 matches. The football will make people forget everything else. It always does. But the everything else will still be there on Monday morning. The Banner investigation, still open. The Molina investigation, still not published. Egypt's complaint has received no response. Algeria's complaint received no response. The phone call, publicly confirmed. The reversal, without precedent in 64 years. The air quality inside MetLife Stadium being monitored on the day of the final, and the institution at the center of all of it, preparing its commercial culmination, counting its $11 to $13 billion of revenue, offering a hot dog joke and an instruction to chill and relax to anyone who raises the questions that this tournament has made unavoidable. What do you think? When you watch the final today, and the referee makes the first significant decision, whatever it is, in whichever direction, will you be watching the football or will you be watching the institution? And when Argentina or Spain lift a trophy in New Jersey tonight, will the story of how this tournament was run change how much the victory means? The Molina investigation has still not been published. Egypt's complaint has received no response. The Banner investigation remains open. The air quality is being monitored. And in a few hours, Slavko Vincic will blow his whistle for the biggest match in the history of sport. We are absolutely not done with this story.